Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wild Woman Podcast. My name is Celine O'Donovan. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy all the wonderful wisdom of the women I get the opportunity to talk to and learn from every week as it's turning out now. So I'm extremely grateful. And I've another such wonderful guest today with me, Sayen, just saying, she tells me. As we say in Ireland, it's a good way to remember, Sayen Scantlebury. And Sayen works with mushrooms medicinally, and we're going to explore all of that sort of journey, what has led her into mycotherapy, which I hadn't known that was what it was described as, but it led me to watch, and I'd recommend it. It's a lovely documentary on Netflix called Fantastic Fungi. So it was a nice introduction if it's a very new topic. I'm sure there's loads more in terms of exploring and learning. So welcome, Sayen. It's just wonderful to have you here today, all the way from sunny Portugal.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Thanks.
Can you just start by explaining what mycotherapy is first for anyone like me who was it was a new term? And
yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it took me quite a while to introduce myself either as a mycotherapist or a medicinal mushroom practitioner, which is a bit more of a mouthful, but when you work with mushrooms, you do work in a very therapeutic way. So I'm not a mycologist. Really like to be. I'd love to study mushrooms as in depth as mycologists do, and it's completely takes over their lives. And I'm saying that's taken over my life pretty much. But I'm very much into the health benefits of mushrooms, obviously, and sharing those with people who respond well to that. And because to do that, you need a whole person approach, and they work on so many different levels. There is the scientific evidence of which we need more for human clinical trials and things, but there is more and more growing evidence. There's lots of medical claims and things like that, but we'll talk about that later probably. They work holistically. They work therapeutically. You work with mushrooms. They don't just fix things for you. So I think on the broad scheme of, mycotherapy, it is a really good title. And yes, some of the training, that's what it was called. So
yeah, and it's just when you said I'm not a mycologist, I hadn't even thought of that term. And it's just when you say, yes, therapeutically, I mean, I love when you say there, that they're not going to fix something, or they work with you, because that's what I've found in my own life with anything that I've sort of worked with that's alive and organic, like myself. You sort of enter into, might sound a bit strange maybe to people, but you enter into sort of a relationship
definitely
with them, and maybe we can explore that as well as we go through the conversation. But so you work individually with clients, am I right?
Yes.
Is that your primary
work? I wear a few hats under my mushroom passion.
Under your mushroom hat.
I also used to work in catering, so I cook a lot of mushrooms, which is a very beneficial way of taking mushrooms. You can get a lot of the medicinal benefits from mushrooms by simply eating them properly. So I'm a big promoter of eating more mushrooms. For some reason, especially in the UK, we seem to have this fear of mushrooms more than other cultures. So people don't really cook them very well. So they're usually a bit slimy and a bit, people say, oh, I don't like mushrooms. But there are A, so many varieties, and B, so many ways of cooking them. So there's a big promotion I would like to run with that. But also, what was your question? What was
my question? My question was, primarily how you work. So you work with clients, and you were saying you also have the cooking angle. So is it I know you said you have a few mushroom hats. So
yeah. I also work. I work with a company that provides doctors and hospitals and lots around cancer as well. So we produce mushroom products for them. They are mainly private clinics and doctors at the moment, but they're doing some wonderful work, and it's a real honor for me to work, with them and kind of bring these amazing, powerful healing, things more into mainstream, hopefully. Also, I've just set up with my colleague Martin Powell, who has written brilliant books on medicinal mushrooms. We have a mushroom dispensary because we have access to such great products. There are such varieties and variations on mushroom products, which is a bit worrying as it's such a growing market, but also because Martin has worked, with farmers in the labs, and we get a lot of our products from China because they've been doing it there for centuries and centuries, and there we can get the quality. He can speak Chinese. He was a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, and so yes, we can make sure that we're getting really good quality products. Like I say, all tested and lab tested, and he goes on quite a lot, which I'm not sure how many companies get to do that.
That's incredible.
So with the mushroom dispensary really is to serve people who, lots of herbalists are now asking us, if they can bring mushrooms into their practice, but they're not ready to have, maybe a whole product range, but they want to either add mushrooms to their herbs, or so buy in small packs, or we can make up blends and stuff for their patients, and that really came out from my practice. I have my own clients. I don't really call my clients patients, but some are. It depends.
Yes.
So many semantics we can get into around and stuff. But when I work with people, we start off with an initial consultation, and it's very much about their lifestyle, what they're dealing with, what they have dealt with. Because with the mushrooms not being a fix-it thing, I often say to people, they walk alongside us. They can be our teachers, they can be our parents, they can be our best friends, they can be our leaders, or just also kind of give us a nudge in the right direction. So they do work also I believe on a spiritual level. Hopefully too late.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's that whole person approach. Also, it's where we're at a specific time. So what I do is I make personal blends for my clients, and that can be tweaked. And I mean, when they work, they don't need to take that specific blend anymore. There might be something else that they need more care with or time with. And also the balance of the mushrooms. This is where I really would like more scientific evidence of how the mushrooms work together. I don't believe in selling everybody a pot of reishi, a pot of lion's mane, a pot of cordyceps, and it's like actually how these mushrooms work together in our bodies and how we react, where we're
a blend, is it, as opposed to
it's getting that bespoke blend for the person at the right time, the right strengths of extracts, the right, and that's what really working with my clients is about, is having a personalized journey with mushrooms.
Yeah, and it sounds like I had a consultation with you, and which was wonderful. It was like a therapy session as well, but it's actually it's a wonderful opportunity as well, I think, for someone to sort of share their story. I think it's even just when we get into sharing our story with someone else, that in itself is powerfully healing, I think, to be just witnessed. It's not even about solving anything, but I felt that very much from that conversation. I could see that when you work with mushroom, it's an emotional, physical, spiritual, mental. I could feel that, and that very, very much came from you and the questions you asked and the time you took and just your insight, and how you sort of brought all of that together. Just to me was wonderful. Like you were sort of able to sum up all of those pieces that I couldn't put words on in myself. And I went, that's exactly how I feel, but I could never have got to that on my own. So it sounds
It's our
then
relationships, isn't it? It's the
it
relationship
is.
between
It
people,
is.
between everything really, and how we
Yeah.
react to things, and where we feel safe, where we
Yeah.
can go forward with things, and things that have stopped us in the past or maybe at the moment. And those things are what causes a lot of illnesses within us. Stress is probably
Yes.
the biggest cause of various illnesses and stuff, and that goes to a cellular level where things start getting blocked, and things try and compensate, and it's all about finding a balance and the relationship to kind of go forward.
Yeah.
The journey that this life is,
Yeah.
as healthily as we can.
Yeah, it's that sort of interconnectedness, which we might talk about as well. But I just want to go back first before we go into some of the more, because it could get lost in all of the things.
Yes.
You could do a two-parter, a three-parter on this. But what brought you to this path, say, and if you don't mind me asking, and even then just to talk about like how did that then unfold in terms of your training, or how you started to understand mushroom and its power?
Really interesting when I get asked where did it start, why, how did it happen, kind of thing. And I can actually go back to being a child. I'm a farmer's daughter. I used to go off on my pony in the day in the woods and have that nature connection. I've been really lucky. Even times when I live in London, it's quite hard to get nature there, but it's there. Nature is everywhere. We are all part of nature. So when you know how to access that, you can. I did then go on to work. I worked in mental health quite a lot, and also I set up a farm in the middle of London with two charities working together, and so there has been that nature connection. And then along the way, I suppose there've been various kind of catalyst things. My partner actually passed away. She had cancer, and watching that journey, I mean, you know yourself, kind of the journey of that, and that mixture of the medical world, the complementary or alternative medicines, they all kind of start coming into play. I didn't know anything about mushroom medicines then, and actually through our journey with cancer, it didn't really come up until afterwards, when I heard about mushrooms and cancers, and how there's a lot of amazing work that mushrooms can do, and to either help support people through conventional medicine, or some people use it as a preventative thing. If they've got hereditary issues around cancer, then they can use mushrooms from that point of view. So that was quite a big eye-opener to what was happening. Then I had a very close friend who worked with mushrooms and took me to the medicinal mushroom conference, the UK and Ireland medicinal.
Never heard of it. Yeah,
it happens every year. We've changed next year. It's going to happen in the spring, because it was always in the autumn, and there's quite a lot of mushroom people very busy in the autumn. So no, and that was really the first year I went there. It was fascinating. The level and quality of research, and what was coming out as well on a kind of conventional medicinal way. We're not allowed to call them medicines. We're not in. There's various rules around safety and marketing. Yeah.
So what can you call them then, or what do you call them?
Food additives. They can, can be like we can sell them like vitamins to make medicinal claims.
Yes.
Very careful.
Not yet.
But you can now on most shops' shelves, there's a lot of people just going ahead and saying things, but I think the industry needs to be kept safe. Because there's a lot you could get away with if you're not careful, if you're coming at it from the wrong angle.
And the research, sorry, can I just ask, where did that sort of start to come about, or where, is it in universities now, or academics, or who's leading a lot of this research? Or
lots of very good universities. The interesting thing with with mushrooms. I mean, it's a whole, the balance of, they can be very dangerous. People die of mold with their mushrooms. And that's not just the poisonous mushrooms that people need to be careful of, So, but they can also heal, the range of benefits and kind of, I mean, not just in the health. I think we mentioned before when we spoke, I mean, the mushrooms eating plastics in the sea now. And, there's ways of that mushrooms are helping humanity, which are quite mind-blowing. Equally, you need to be respectful, you need to be careful, you need to work hard and, get your facts right. I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, and I'll probably only know a fraction, really, of what there is to know. But there are many major universities around the world studying these. There's also papers from centuries ago in mainly Asian cultures. They're seen in religious ceremonies around the world. They're there, just mostly underground. So they pop up when they're needed. So,
because there seems to be that whole other sort of magic mushrooms, or is it psilocybin, or there's a whole other, I suppose.
Yes, I mean, there is around if you use them culturally as a health. Psilocybin, the compound that is medicinal, magic, some people call it, the compound that's in a couple of hundred mushrooms actually is found. They're still discovering others. Now, I'm really pleased with the psychedelic renaissance, as it's been named. And if you watch Fantastic Fungi, there's a lot of information in that film. So people are finding the benefits, and there are some great people in the UK, the Imperial College people, Greenwich University, Dr. David Luke, a whole team of people who are working really carefully and coming up with the acceptable, scientific, different ways of opening this up. If you read Professor Nutt, David Nutt, he's got a brilliant book on psychedelics, and he does a lot around the science part and how it was basically closed down by governments around the world, and until they kind of, I suppose, the larger corporate big pharma people find a way of monetizing it, or I don't want to sound too cynical, because without them maybe we wouldn't be getting
a healthy.
It's fascinating what's going on. And then again, that mix of ancient wisdom, the guidance and cultural people who have used these medicines coming from mushrooms in all the different guises, is such a wealth of information and can really help people. It can save lives, and it can help people, and it also helps people die. There's a brilliant some brilliant work around palliative care and people with cancers who are facing death with really quite severe fear and things like that, and they've used psilocybin to help people ease those journeys. I think it turned out that half of them didn't die as soon as they thought they were going to, maybe even more than half. You can look it up online. There's a really good clinical trial. So yes, I mean, I'm all for a safe opening passage of what is.
But it strikes me straight away, nearly, when you describe that sort of, there was something that really struck me when I listened to the documentary, but maybe I read it, or maybe you said it as well, is this whole association of death and rebirth with mushrooms, something much deeper, as you said, on so many levels. Like it just strikes me, it deserves so much respect. Anything that is that powerful, as you said, taken to one extreme, can be poisonous, as well. So there's all of that going on that it does bring us into the sacred, to my mind. I think that it's even when I'll just even say, before I even met you, it's really interesting. It's like mushroom found me. I mean, people might find this strange, but I have found this since I've gone on my own healing journey. sort of post-cancer, because I did both the conventional and alternative, and then since, or whatever, I don't call it alternative, holistic, natural health, whatever you want to call it, but it started to find me more. And I think the key is it's about empowering ourselves as well, isn't it? Like that, as you describe it, a supportive journey. It's not we're going to fix you. There's nothing wrong with you to be fixed. You just need to be supported to sort of realize who you are in your power, and come back into that balance in yourself. And that, but I felt a very strong message to go to an acupuncturist a number of months ago. I just kept hearing it, acupuncture, because I knew something is still off in me. It just, not off, it just, yeah, it needs to be rebuilt maybe. And I went to the acupuncturist, and then I started to hear the word mushrooms. I genuinely did. And I started eating a lot of them. I just kept buying them. And then she said, I can make you up. I never mentioned mushrooms, but she said, I can make you up a blend. And she did, with mushrooms, like you described, and herbs. And even as I started taking it, I felt like I was drinking the most nutritious, supportive nourishment is the one word that came to mind. And it felt to me, sorry, now you can just maybe just see it as this, I suppose, mirror maybe, or something, some of the experiences, or how it works. I felt, or still feel, that there's a part of me, I think we're constantly dying and being reborn to ourselves. There's, to what we thought of the world, to what we thought of ourselves. And there's that sort of dying away. And it's sort of, then there's sort of a detox nearly that's happening with it. But also then you need to sort of, you're being reborn again, or a newer version of you that needs to be supported and strengthened and nourished. Does that some way
definitely
into what
I do say to people who come to me, it's like, now you've made the connection, you started the healing, even though you might not have started taking your blend or whatever. You've opened up something. And I think us humans, our egos don't half get in the way. Like, oh, I know what's going on with me, I can do this, or I don't know what's going on with me, or the kind of person who does. There's this kind of real separation between that circle of life and death. Like you say, even if things aren't, our notion of dying, what is dying, really? That's a whole other thing, really. That letting go of things that don't serve us anymore, and then we tend to hang on to things that we think are, a lot of cognitive things in action, and then we forget to feel more of the spiritual, and the letting go, and the rebirth, and the acceptance, and that having that space for not knowing, just feeling, and activating our own healing, our own power, our own connection, spiritual connection, is so amazing and valuable and normal, for want of a better word, as part of nature, And you see, we're talking about mushrooms, and we're talking about like just the odd fruiting bodies that come up from this incredible layering of mycelium, which is everywhere, and holding, holding the light in the dark in a weird kind of juxtaposition kind of way.
Can you talk about that? Sorry, that just has, the minute you said that word, when I first spoke to you, I was like, something lit up in me. And I've just from that documentary as well, somewhere I read that it is the mother of us all, and that it shares, there was something, but it shares the same archetype or something of the how the universe is organized. There's sort of this, it's like the beginning. I can't describe it very well, but it's that sort of network.
We're trying to do a podcast on something we can't, there are no words for.
I know. I just felt it. And I'll just say this to you, because maybe it brings another, I can't put words in this either, but there was something else by chance I listened to last night, and it was about our Merkaba, our light body, for anyone who's interested in this, and how the walls of it, this is the line the woman said, the walls of our Merkaba, she was trying to talk about how we all have different energetic blueprints. We all come into the world to do different things and have different roles, and sometimes we feel we don't belong, but it's because we're not necessarily meant to belong. We're meant to be doing something, there's no right or wrong, but she just said it's held in the walls of the Merkaba that are like a network of brain cells. And then I had just watched the other documentaries, such as the mycelium has more networks than our brain neural pathways or something. I thought, wow, there's something really connected now. How would you sort of talk about that? Or do you?
How does one talk about that? I mean, we go back to what we know, and the story of evolution that we have been taught or whatever. But mushrooms they came up from, they brought plant life into being. They, and then animals came. Our DNA is closer to mushrooms and mycelium than we are to other. It's all there. It's all been there, and they are the creators. They're also the destroyers, like we've already mentioned. So this circle of life, and whether that's just on this planet or others, we don't know. But I think that when you can feel it, when you allow yourself to feel it, and this can happen in various healing modalities. I mean, by doing this podcast, you're bringing us all together. You're kind of, seeing all the differences and the similarities of energy, really, and how we work with it and how we survive with it. And I think, the mycelium, what's happening in the world now, the state of Earth is critical. And it's like, oh no, we've got to go and help them, kind of thing. We've got to become more apparent, and things. And it's so, we're talking about big mega things, but also tiny things like taking lion's mane has been proven to create new neural pathways. So we are being changed, and things are helping us to survive by this. I mean, I think it was Paul Stamets says mushrooms will save the world. I mean, I believe they will. I believe they can, if we work with them and allow.
Like you said, even they're breaking down plastic in the ocean. I mean, even that, and that's real. That's happening. I mean,
I think they cleaned some oil slick somewhere as well. They tried different, substances, and it was a mycelium based thing that helped clean up an oil slick. Sorry, I should have more facts and figures to my fingertips.
No, but I mean, it's just a spark. I think anyone who's interested, it's lovely to bring, I think, any topics like this that are about, to more people, and we all then can, if we feel called,
new materials out of mycelium. There's buildings being made.
Yes,
leathers that are beautiful. Some wonderful companies making fantastic things and haven't killed an animal at all to make these beautiful materials.
And even those, and they're also, I saw, I think on the documentary, it was, oh my God, bear with me, there was something that, it was even going back to the start of penicillin and how that comes from the mycelium as well.
I mean, that's when we're not allowed to say all these kind of medicinal claims, I'm like, well, hang on, half the medicines people are taking came from fungus in some way. Medicine was a mold. So it happened in a petri dish, and then the penicillin. So things evolve, and I think we are in a huge time of transition. Systems are breaking down around us. Our governments, we're back at war. We've got a global. I mean, oh gosh, when will we learn?
And as you said, it's ancient. Like I was listening to someone talking about astrology the other day, and they were saying if you go back, like, I don't know, Middle Ages, they had astrologers. Like all of these were ancient sciences and knowledge. And, that to me says an awful lot about, there's been so much progress, but, also we've sort of, I feel it feels like we've sort of had to go far away from ourselves sometimes to sort of feel the call back to what and maybe that has been necessary as well.
I think as well around, I mean, the people, friends of mine, people that I work with, and this sense of ancestry, the sense of land, sense of what's gone in the past. We're not we're not rushing ahead and kind of abandoning that anymore. It's really part of our everyday sensibilities. You know, you can to feel into things as opposed to actually know. You know, all the humans that are on the world now, on the earth now, you know, we've only been here a couple of 100 years, maybe. Sorry, what is how old is the longest living person? Anyway, well, what time? Don't get me on about time as well, because that's all. It's the quality of our time here, and that connection, which I think is the most important thing. But our link to, you know, if we open up our past, it will also open up our future. It as humans, it feels like we've become tighter and more convinced that this is the way, and it's really being proven now that, like I said, things are falling and dropping, systems are becoming broken, but the knowledge is there. I know lots of people who are quite seriously depressed and worried about the future and all the things that we're facing, but I have faith in not any religious order, sorry, semantics again. I have faith in nature and us and our part in nature. Even if we don't know what's going to happen, but we can start helping each other a lot more and trusting. You know.
Yeah, because it does seem, what gives me hope as well is it's like anything that we have to maybe see what has been under the surface, maybe that we weren't aware of. It's like anything, if you were married to someone and they were having an affair and you didn't know, and it's very painful when you find out, but in the end it's for the best that you do. So there's a painful period you have to go through before you can come out the other end, like everything, I suppose, painful in life. And it feels, that's my my way of sort of, I don't know, sensing it, that there's a lot of that, maybe, control and different things that have been going on that have to be seen, and it's can be a painful period, but it's the death and rebirth again, isn't it?
And it's the trusting that, you know, it's all about learning as well. You know, going towards pain, going towards difficult things, without fear, and knowing that it is part of, you know, this. I know there's probably people listening saying, yes, but this has happened and it's horrible and it's this, you know, and there are a lot of terrible, painful things that people go through, but we can go through it and we can support each other going through that and be there for each other.
Yeah.
Word that can, you know, send people in different directions, but
well, that's, and thank you for sharing about your partner. I'm very sorry to hear that. That sounds again like you've been through your pain. What was, I wouldn't say that, I don't want this to sound really glib or anything, but you said you sort of discovered mushroom and that sort of brought you into that work after. Was that because of the journey that you went on together?
I mean, I suppose I was interested in complementary alternative medicines at that point, but it was really the, I mean, who knows? The universe provided me with these opportunities. And I just was very fascinated and really fascinated in the relationship between human beings and the you know, fungi world, the mycelium that was there. And I suppose, you know, this kind of the dark, you know, what's the unseen, the unknown, you know.
How do you talk about because you talked about that with the mycelium, that a lot, when with the mushroom, a lot of it's underground, it's not what you're seeing.
So like this power and our it's, we're all in balance. We have light and we have shadow sides, and people have spent a lot of time, money and everything not dealing with the shadow side. Don't go there, that's too painful, that's whatever. And actually, if you're safe enough and supported enough to look at dark, then it's not as scary as you think, really. Usually.
That's a brilliant message, though. Thank you. It is, because sorry, continue. I think that's one of the most empowering things. I spent most of my life running from my pain, not realizing there was a way through it. I just didn't know. And even I just think it's the most freeing it's different, you know, it's challenging to go into that. But as you said, with the right, and I can't say I have that worked out in my own life at all, but it's something I'm determined, you know, I feel I want to go deeper into, because I know it's where the juice of my life is, sort of, it feels, you know, that's where the riches come from ultimately.
I think what you're doing now, Celine, is you are bringing, you know, just by doing this work, you know, you're bringing these things together, and then, you know, things will bubble up, and things will, and there will be the support network, and there will be a safe space, you know, for people.
I hope so, because it feels, and when you work with people, like, what can you say, what has been your greatest, I wouldn't say lesson, but, you know, from all the clients and people you've worked with, like, is there something you go, wow?
I think the trusting the unknown, and risking, kind of, you know, when some people are quite, I mean, who's a difficult client? Somebody who's very, you know, there might be a personality thing with them, and, you know, and I have to keep being open, keep being vulnerable myself, not bring in my own prejudices or my own knowledge or whatever. So that constant opening up, to keep that relationship going. And even if it's some, you know, people come and go as well. Life happens. People are busy, or there's some, you know, something doesn't work for a while, so they try something else. But to be able to hold the potential of this healing space that I've been really fortunate to, you know, to be able to be part of, that it's my life's work now. There's learning goes on throughout this life, maybe beyond. So but this is the one we're working with now, and we have to, you know, I need to make myself the best I can be for the clients and the mushrooms. That's the other thing. My other clients and the mushrooms. I work for mushrooms as well as humans. That's what it feels like. I'm kind of part of doing their job as well.
What has been the greatest lesson from mushrooms so far?
Don't be too kind of confident. Don't be too, oh, well, we know these mushrooms work in a certain way for certain, you know, it's like, no, maybe it's because it's a fairly new relationship. I know I've already said it's ancient as well, but in the way that our society works or doesn't work at the moment, it's there can be a lot of, we're used to having this answer. We want answers, and people have been different. Even just using the same mushroom with a different person can have very different effects. And this is what worries me about the business of mushroom products. You know, you get this like, oh, this is going to do this, you know,
off the shelf,
take lion's mane, you know, you're a bit sorry.
Yes.
Not lion's mane. Lion's mane is a fantastic mushroom, but, you know, oh, it'll do this. It has, so that a lot of these mushrooms they're so multifaceted in their potential and what they can do. So what is right for one person might not, you know, might have a very different effect with somebody else. So it's very
you said sort of person-centered, isn't it?
Yeah, when you're in, you know, it's my job now, it's my career, it's my calling, it's whatever. But to say, oh, that I know that, you know, to go, yes, okay, I've researched that, I know that we've got proof that it works like that. Always have to keep something else open to a potentially different thing. You know.
How do you protect that? You know, it sounds like anything goes on a bigger scale. You know, you're saying all this research has been done, and I totally get that. It sounds a little bit, it's like working with herbs or homeopathy. And I interviewed a homeopath once, and she said the same thing. Someone can come to me with grief, but I will make up a totally different blend for every single one of them. They've different lives, they're different people, they've had different experiences, different fears, different, you know, how could they? But I suppose once, without being too cynical, but once I suppose the corporate or whatever gets their hands on something, and I know it can be for good intention as well to help people, but so how do you see that? How do you manage that, or how do you not even manage it,
I think that's, yes, what I'm trying to articulate, I'm not doing very well at, but that's answering the last two questions in a way. So I need to keep myself open, healthy, have my intuition intact, have my being able to connect with people and not come with, you know, when you say what's the most challenging, it's like if somebody comes and it's triggering me in some way. It's like a therapy. I mean, this is where the therapist model comes in. You know, you have to provide that and understand those relationships and those nuances and keep both people safe, myself and the client. Within that, because what comes from that is the discovery of other things. It's been fascinating when I have been working on someone's blend, because as you know, I take loads of notes, and when I'm talking to someone, and then I actually have a ceremony. You know, I can light a candle sometime. I bring together the mushrooms and the extractions of mushrooms that I think are right for the person. So the strengths, the types, how we're getting the parts of the mushroom that we need for the right person. So, and then I do have a ceremony about people and what I think would be right. So there's a lot of my research, my training, my cognitive thing involved with that. And then sometimes when the magic happens, it's going, oh, well, why not, you know, maybe a bit of that, you know, maybe a bit of a woodier mushroom or something. And then I'll sense it and I'll put it in the blend, and then I'll go, hang on, I'll just check that. And I find that there's some bit of research to do with something, and then I'll connect it the next time I talk to the client. And I haven't known that to start with. I haven't known that bit would have helped that bit of them. But for some reason, it comes to me. And that's the magic of, you know.
The magic of mushrooms.
Yeah. I know we're recording this. I know this is going to go out. So some people might go, well, you know, how on earth does that happen? But
you have to, yeah. I get that.
And it's happened enough times now for me to go,
okay.
Yeah, I need to nurture this.
And I suppose that's up to everybody. There is no right or wrong in any of this. It's great to you know, this is you sharing, and we're having a conversation here, and you're explaining your experience and, you know, and your own expertise in this area. And then it's up to each of us. We're all adults, you know, but ultimately, as you said, like, if that's the experience you're having, and then if you then say that or bring that up, do you, with the client, maybe, do you? You're saying that you often find something that sort of struck you will very much resonate with their experience. So, I mean, how can you not? I mean, I think once you touch, any of us, and I can say it from experience with other things in my life where I've touched into the sacred, the divine, whatever, nature, whatever you want to call it, that greater magic in the cosmos and the stars. And I think we've all had it in some way or other. Maybe we don't attribute it to, you know, we can attribute it to different things. But once you've had, I don't know why I would, well, personally, you would ever go back to just working with, you know, the lot. Listen to Einstein. Well, they attribute it to Einstein. I always loved this saying. He said that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind a faithful servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So
that's brilliant,
isn't it? Yes, I love that. Yeah,
really
and I think that's the journey I feel we're maybe on as a civilization, hopefully, to recovering and remembering this power, and not, because I would often have dismissed that and diminish it, like saying myself, sure, and I'm going, no, not anymore, because it is sacred and it is powerful and it has changed my life. And I imagine for you working, that's what mushroom, it feels like, are reminding, if they're trying to come in maybe gently and maybe sometimes not gently to remind us of this. You know, we don't know.
An honoring.
Yeah.
What we do, and also what we bring to it as well. It's Yes, that's beautiful.
Isn't it a beautiful? Well, I didn't come up with it, but I found it. But it's beautiful. It is, and just maybe as well. So we'll go into some specifics too, because I'd love. One of the things that I read or I listened to, again, not to do with this, but I was driving in the car. It was Bruce Lipton, I think, and he was talking about the immune system, because I'm very interested. Mushrooms have a big connection, don't they, with the immune system and stress and the fight or flight hormone. And he was saying, because that's my memory of before cancer, as they call it. I don't call it that anymore, though. But anyways, that's the name that's put on it, that symptom that I lived very much in fight or flight. I know that, and I had my adrenal glands tested afterwards. But he was talking about how once you're in fight or flight, which is normal, but not to live in it, your immune system, and he described why the immune system doesn't function as well.
I mean, the immune suppressants and immune balancing, because there are people they have an overactive immune system.
Okay.
There are various diseases. I have a very close friend who is trying to rebalance that at the moment, and the symptoms of that are really not pleasant, like mood, sight, and various things. But
really? Okay.
Again, it is about finding the balance. And when you say, when you've had a cortisol flood and you're into, and that can happen over a long period of time. So it's turkey tail Coriolis is a mushroom that's very kind of well known for boosting the immune system, and it's not just about boosting the immune to stop you getting colds, and I mean it has that effect as well in a lot of people, but it is about rebalancing and harmonizing, and so your immune system is working in a natural way. It's not less or more.
Yes, no, I know what you're saying. So it's not going into this extreme, is it, of like,
yes, low or high. It is about finding the balance as well, and the way that it's not. I mean, it's not just turkey tail. It's a lot of other mushrooms can work on your immune system, which, depending on the symptoms, depending on what that's happening. I think I might have mentioned to you when we spoke before, like Lignosis rhinoceros, tiger milk mushroom.
Yeah, I love that name.
Is amazing for the respiratory. Anything that's out of balance on that, it can really kind of help rebalance the cells. To be honest, a lot of them we don't know how they work exactly. Oh, I can feel all the scientists like going, whoa, we should know what we're talking about. But we need more scientific information, or we need to trust it more. And again, it's a balance of mushrooms. It's it's not just taking one thing for one
symptom.
That's it.
Yes. So you could be making up a mix for somebody, you're saying, who has, is it? So, when you said the lower, coming back into balance, and the immune system might be, in what situations? Because I think mostly probably identify with the really stress response, and you're saying if it's in a lower, not working as well as it, what would lead to that, or how?
Most of the time it is stress that started it, but it can also be an infection. It can also
but the way you were saying, sorry, is it you could be in fight or flight, or in the other extreme than fight or flight? Is that...
I mean, when the immune system goes into into overdrive.
Yes. Okay.
So then to boost an immune system, that is not what's needed. You need to actually suppress the immune system.
Okay.
And that comes out in various diseases, or it has the effect of after it will cause a different disease.
Yes. If it's over.
So in a case of certain specifics, but
no, sorry. I just it's because it really, I didn't understand this, and I think there's lots. Cancer is one example I know where you've talked. It's been used a lot. And there's a doctor as well, a Dr. Kate James you mentioned, who I looked up, and I noticed that was very interesting because she talked about it more nutritionally as a support, but on how it can work alongside traditional cancer treatments.
It's
and then
probably more careful legally than I am. So
well, this podcast is all for entertainment. I think that's what everybody has to say these days, isn't it? For entertainment purposes. So you make what you will of anything. I mean, at the end of the but she also talked about EFT and tapping, which I found very interesting, because I was also introduced to a woman recently who I did some work with tapping. So it just sounds you can bring a lot of these different modalities together, depending, I suppose, on as you said, even as working with clients, depending on
I think what I really love about the way mushrooms work, obviously, but because a lot of my clients, like, we do meditation around these things, because it's, if you think of how things are working on a cellular level, and how you can increase the robustness of cells so they can actually actively be doing what they need to do, and they're not dealing with outside influences, be that diet, be that stress, be that a lack of something or an overload of something. So it's about balancing that, and then start working at kind of how that increases health throughout the body. I suppose I'm going from heart and solar plexus, but it can come from everything's moving around anyway.
Yeah, so deeply you can see that they're working at that level cellularly, that they
it's more, to me, it's more if people can work like that on themselves. I mean, you can look at blood tests, you can look at spores and cells, and that's not my area. There are people who can do that.
Yeah.
Who I'd like to know more of, actually. So listening. I've got my microscope, but I just look at mushroom spores and microscopes. But and cells. But it's how that works on a cellular level. And I think when we do get that balance, then we can deal with most things. That's when the so-called miracles happen. People can recover from various illnesses that people think they're on death's door, and then you get the right balance of something and it can be healed. So
and have you seen that, Sayen, with clients or with people you've come across?
With the people that we work with through integrative health, some of the doctors in the cancer hospital, I was shocked at how far people have gone, and they've managed to come back. That has been through not just mushrooms. I mean, mushrooms are part of the healing modality kind of treatments that they have. But I know that mushrooms really support people within to heal themselves. And I've seen it happen, and it is astounding.
I mean, that's incredible. How would you see the future then of healthcare or medicine, or ideally evolving or looking?
All be eating, drinking, sharing more mushrooms as much as possible. Some people are allergic to them, so we do need to be careful. But you can have allergic reactions to some mushrooms, and some people just don't like them, so they say. But I think it is happening, and I'm glad it's happening, that mushrooms are becoming more available to people, and because for a general functional human body, they can really, really help. So let's keep taking
more mushrooms. And you said you talked about the cooking as well. So what if someone is just saying, I just want to eat some mushrooms because I really like them, or I want to try them? What would you suggest, and what is it they're giving you? I think you said to me that if you leave your mushrooms out in the sun,
the vitamin
D increases. So are they a very good?
Yes, there's lots and lots of different vitamins that come from eating mushrooms as well. And now mushrooms do seem to be more widely available in the normal shops and supermarkets and places like that. I'm really particularly, I love shiitake mushrooms, which are available to people. And just mushrooms on toast. Just get them
and just
cooked,
fry
get
them
them
up,
cooked
isn't it?
well,
Yeah.
or make a broth. That's a
Okay.
water decoction. By simmering mushrooms, you are polysaccharides will be coming out of the structure, and you can make your own medicine. There are different. I'm going to put it on my Instagram thing. I'm not very good at these things, but I got a locally farmed shiitake mushroom, which I went and picked off the log with the farmer, who's James. He's great. And then I got a shop bought one, and I did a spore print of both, and then cooked them both. So it was a kind of bit of a comparison. Saying that, the ones in the supermarkets are still good for you, but it's kind of just find the joy in mushrooms, and then that will come to you. A white button mushroom, the Agaricus bisporus, which is everywhere, and actually the chestnut ones, they're the same species, they're the same genre. If you eat one of those raw, that really helps with people with digestive problems around wheat and gluten.
Really?
Yeah. I have a friend who has one raw mushroom a day, and he says that he doesn't have flare-ups, and he's obviously careful about what he eats, but
because that's quite a common complaint, isn't it? So that can help any sort of, is it the inflammation or what happens in the gut?
Well, yes, and the reaction. How if people have eaten some wheat that they're having a reaction to, they often go for charcoal. Activated charcoal is kind of will kind of, but if you eat a raw mushroom, it has the same effect.
My God. That's phenomenal. I will do that. I didn't really get into, as well, what sort of, training yourself, or how did you sort of up on all of this?
I did a brilliant course. I consider my training to be ongoing, but I did Fred Gillam and Natasha Kenyon Gillam. They run the Wild Side of Life. They're fantastic foragers. They also run the Medicinal Mushroom Conference. And Fred runs a course, The Healing Potential of Mushrooms. And it's in stages. You can do the first ones, which I think are webinars, and they're open to everybody. And then they get increasingly kind of longer and in more depth. And there's a lot around, how your practice as a health practitioner, how you can bring in mushrooms. That course is excellent. I would, even just doing the first bit is interesting, and learn a lot more. I said I'm really fortunate to work with Martin Powell. He has two excellent books, The Clinical Guide and also The Essential Guide, which is a lovely little A5 booklet. That has lots of information from there. That's available in various health shops and online and things like that. He and his daughter also, it was a lockdown project. They started the Mushroom magazine, and beautiful magazines. And there's lots of, I know quite a few of the contributors to that, but they're fantastic. There are more courses now available online. There's also some Hifas de Terra, which they're a Spanish company. They have a practitioner educational side of things, and look online. It needs to be more mainstream. The universities that do cover mycology, and Exeter University at the moment, they actually have a course on psychedelics as well. That's a new, I think it's an MA. I'd quite like to do it myself, actually. They're a great team of people there. They're also hosting Breaking Convention, which is a fantastic conference around all different psychedelics, but psilocybin obviously is a very kind of, a well-studied one. So where to go for I keep missing something that I did. I tell you what, I'll send you the links as well.
Yeah, we can put all of those in. We didn't really, I suppose, not touch on not necessarily the psilocybin, but I was very interested in how, even with shamanic type journeying a long time ago, how it sort of brings people into, I suppose, altered states of consciousness, isn't it? Therapeutically, to help them maybe with trauma and that side of, is
I think yes, you have to be really careful, and there's a lot going on around. I mean, interestingly, it's something that I'm not part of, but that the whole kind of rave festival, tripping together, I was quite against it because of the dangers of it, and I know people who have really had horrible experiences and that not helped them in their lives at all. So that, and I was quite against it, but there was a couple of speakers at this year's Breaking Convention who talked about the kind of community of that, and the fact that as a group, when people are experiencing these things together. So I was like, hang on, there is something in this. There is something in this, the sacredness of coming together and working with these medicines in, like you say, in a shamanic way or whatever. It is very interesting. I find that in retreat settings, you know, I mean, psilocybin retreats are legal in the Netherlands and Jamaica, and the group that there's proven by group work, you know, people are picking things up from each other and sharing things, and that there's something in
the mycelium, isn't there? There's back to the
there's
sort of
something in that,
sort of,
that's really, really good.
Yeah.
But I do think at the moment where we're at, it could hold more dangers than.
It sounds like we need to grow up a bit more than mushroom does, that it's such a sacred gift to us, really, this that like it sounds like the more we're growing up or evolving, mushroom and other things are coming to us, but it's like we have to be ready. It's like a child maybe growing up, and if you give a child something too early, you know, they might eat it and, you know, get poisoned.
That's a really good analogy.
I just wanted to mention it because I think people might go to, oh, magic mushrooms, and think back. I think it mentioned a little bit in that documentary about, and maybe we were too young back, I'm not too young, but, you know, back in the 60s and raves and maybe not having good experiences for people. But as you said, there's something, it seems to be, like there's an ancient wisdom there that for people or keepers of the wisdom who knew how to work with these with mushroom, other things, then there's something very special that can happen. But
and all the different types of mushrooms and their different effects. There's and Paul, in America, there's places in America where psilocybin is becoming legalized as well, and this stacking, it's called, that where there's a mix. Paul Stamets has a mix of lion's mane, niacin, and psilocybin. And there have been there's some new evidence around the interaction of medicines together. I'm particularly interested in it because of my personal blends, that I know I have the experience of difference of effect by mixing different mushrooms together. But there's a lot of work to be done around that. And I think that another bit part of mushroom work that we haven't talked about is the extraction of the medicinal properties from different mushrooms. I mean, reishi mushroom, beautiful mushroom. I'm really lucky to work in our office. We have a massive, it's like a meter diameter fruiting body of reishi. It's beautiful. And and we have little files of the different compounds that have come out, you know, whether it's an alcohol extraction, water decoction, the spore oil, the way that they're ground around, and they all have different effects, but they're from the same mushroom. So when you see something on a shop shelf and it goes, oh yeah, or someone goes, oh, reishi's good, that'll help me sleep, you know, it's like, whoa, it's really hard for me to stomach that, because there's so many variations in how these, you know, how they're worked with. And again, in ceremony, you know, you look at other plant medicine ceremonies, it's how, you know, how the brew is made, and the shaman, you know, and all the different elements to bringing out the right things, and then the people working with them, the humans working with them.
Yeah. And do you work on the extraction yourself, Sayen?
I used to make my own tinctures. Again, Wild Side of Life, Fred Gillam has a very good short course on making tinctures and capsules, powdered capsules. But it's really hard to know the exact, the amount of the extracted compound you're getting. Saying that, you do get the wild element. We're talking about wild women here, so this is perfect.
Yes, exactly.
Because when I forage, I'm not a great forager. I love foraging. I love being in the woods. I love the mushrooms that come to me when I'm in the right zone. And luckily, I have a lot of friends from the Association of Foragers, a brilliant organisation. Lots of people who do that for a living and educate people. But there's nothing. I mean, some things can't be farmed. Birch polypore is a fantastic medicinal mushroom. Some people call it poor man's chaga because there's loads of it. And yes, I definitely make my own birch polypore tincture and give it to friends, but I couldn't really use that in my practice.
Yes,
but I could, but
most of yours comes from, you said, from China.
Yes, and there are good companies. There's a very good company in Iceland. I can't remember. We've actually just started using, there's a company called Opus Mushrooms, a woman in the Netherlands who has worked very hard to get lovely, strong tinctures. And they actually taste really good as well, because the good tinctures don't always taste good. But there are people, Tom and the team at Bristol Fungarium, they just make tinctures. They're fantastic, and they really, work hard. They've got brilliant energy, all of them.
So do you have to give a very specific, when you say make up a blend for a client, you come to that and tell them what you want, or do you give them more of the picture?
It really depends on the clients. Some people, they get overfaced by too much information. But some people, especially if they're dealing with something, conventionally medicine, I have to match it up to what's happening with their bloods. And
yes,
I'd say exactly the percentages of triterpenes and polysaccharides and beta glucans. Glucans can have a different effect depending on what people want to. But it's great. You can get some people who are kind of quite, a science teacher, a retired science teacher. He was great. He was brilliant. He was asking me for all the numbers, and that was wow. Other people just don't, they're just, just help me, and then so how much information people. Yeah,
I know that they, and so
I've sent reports, I've sent them links to, clinical trials, and they're like, I don't understand it. But some people do, so it depends again on whether. I think if it helps their healing, then have as much as information that you can.
Okay, thank you. Anything Mushroom wants to say?
Just be careful, be respectful, honor yourself, and honor this amazing, the amazing mushrooms that are all around us. Every step we take, the mycelium knows what we're doing, so might as well make friends with them.
Yeah, they're under our feet. I found one the other day. It's funny. It's the first time, I never saw it before. There's paving at the front of the house. I said, what is that in the corner? And this fungi mushroom had sort of found its way up, but like never.
Told you they're coming to you, Celine.
They're coming to me. They're invading right at the gate of the house. So if that wasn't they're coming for me. Well, I welcome them with open arms, because brilliant. I can feel them already. It's just, I really can. I've no hesitation in saying that. It's just
and I'm here to help if you need to know.
Thank you. Because the other side, sorry, maybe just before I finish, I think it's an important thing about a healing journey, let's say, is that sometimes can it be that we can sometimes feel a bit worse, or things can sort of be rattled in us. Can that be part of it?
Straight away, when people initially start taking their mushroom powders or tinctures, or your body can react quite a lot. Some people, you can get the extra wind is usually the kind of first complaint. But also, I think where it works kind of more spiritually is sometimes it can show you more of what you have to deal with. I don't know whether that's, there are other practices where that apparent, but a couple of people have said to me, I'm not feeling any better. I feel a bit worse. And it's like, so we need to go into that, what actually is happening. And maybe that sometimes it needs to come to the surface to then be treated well and how it needs,
Yeah. So just for anyone listening who, again, whatever the healing modality or mushroom, I definitely can say that from experience with anything very powerful and natural that I've worked with. It's always trying to show you there's something, it's like another layer sometimes can come up that's ready, that maybe with some other medications you might take might just stay suppressed. But at some point, that's my experience anyways, for me to become more fully myself, these layers have to come off, because they're not layers that are natural to me. They're layers I took on, and we all take on, and our lives can become,
there's a lot
can't
we
they?
have stuck, isn't there? And it's just to open those out, the healing possibilities that are there.
And I think when you work with something natural, yes, it can be painful, but it works. And one of my experience has been it works at a pace that is okay for you. Consider trust that you're working with aspects of yourself, as opposed to maybe taking something, what's I always saying, unnatural. But it's not to be afraid of that. I found that you will only get as much as you need to, maybe you can deal with at the time, and it'll organically take on its own life if you're willing to go with it, doesn't it? Sounds like that with mushroom, if you're
it's wonderful and thank you for this opportunity. I normally shy away from
well, thank you. I greatly appreciate
I'm like a mushroom, I'll go on. But the opportunity to balance, like we said before, the science and the sacred. I really feel that that's kind of my purpose in this work, and to bring that together, and that's, you get it. So it's really lovely to talk to you.
No, it's beautiful, because having been through, I'll just share this because I think it is so important. When I first was diagnosed, it's not, and I know mushroom isn't just about cancer, but it's just been my experience, so I mention it. When I first was diagnosed, I was very torn between what way to deal with it, like with using conventional treatment. And I also at the time had been working with someone anyway, sort of a shaman, and just for my own well-being in general. So there was all these things coming at me, and I was so sort of, I don't know what to do. And I remember working with a lady, and
so many people experience that after a diagnosis.
And is there a right or a wrong? And this beautiful woman that found her way to me through a friend, and I had a session with her, and I was so stressed. I was due to start chemotherapy the next day, and I had a friend who wanted to give me herbs, and they meant well. And in the end, she said to me, there is no right or wrong here. Whatever you choose to do is for your journey and your work here on earth. And I sort of felt, yes, I needed to experience, and I don't regret, and it's not a criticism of going through chemotherapy or anything like that, but I needed to experience to understand how it worked, and then to sort of grow as well from that, and then see how other aspects of healing and how they work with me differently, and the empowerment. It's just it's something, I don't think there's any prescribed answer for any of this. It must be your own call.
We're all on our own journey. We're all where we're at. In the time we're in, with the resources that we have, and some of us are lucky enough to share more resources with people,
and to grow through that, because I couldn't have found my way to what I see is that journey into the sacred. That, like, I mean, it is just, I felt I had to grow up probably and I still am. I'm not saying I'm at all, I'm probably like a 5-year-old or younger, but just growing into that sacredness of life and what is available to us. And it has changed me beyond anything, this. So I highly encourage anyone to explore. If mushroom is calling you, explore it. And you say, and I know you have your own website, don't you, as well? If people want to, or do you want, whatever you do want to share, I'll put it all in the description box. You don't have to say it.
I do have a website.
Yeah. Whatever way.
You can imagine I'm not that technically minded.
Yeah, but even whatever, like a lot of the things you mentioned here, which would be very useful for anyone, whether it's books or other websites or courses or universities, we can include, and whatever else feels right for you as well, because I know you've a lot going on and you're a busy woman, and yeah, just very grateful to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to share this space with me. It's just, as one woman, a beautiful guest, said recently, well, every woman is beautiful. She said, Selena, oh, it's like a virtual temple you're creating for women's wisdom. Now, I don't claim that, but it's the women who are creating that, who have come to the podcast, and so I'm just so grateful, because it's such a gift for me and to everyone listening. So thank you, Sayen, for being part of it and contributing your wonderful wisdom. Balancing the sacred and the science, I think, is where we're headed, hopefully, in our world.
Well, thank you, and thanks for all the work you do, and you are definitely helping create something that's much needed.
We're all doing it through the mycelium, aren't we? Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. Until the next time, really appreciate it. Take care. Bye for now.